I am Heidi Benjaminson, your host of Confidence Coaching, a podcast for mothers of teenagers who want to turn chaos into calm. Life isn't a spectator sport. Success comes to those who show up every day with a pocket full of courage, grit, and a little sparkle. I'm glad you're here. Hello. Welcome to episode 129, How to Stop Guilt Tripping Our Teens. Welcome to any new listeners. Make sure you hit subscribe to get new episodes each Wednesday. And I recently started sharing short, like 5-minute short, videos on YouTube to accompany each episode to give more details and examples. I always share a link on Facebook, and you can watch it from my Instagram profile link as well. I love hearing how topics stay with you and make you ponder, and how you changing really changes them. I got a message from a listener who shared how much calmer and peaceful her home is and how her teens get in significantly less fights because she has learned in just a few months how to calmly talk to her family. She changed her energy in the home, and that energy has been contagious. I love it. Last week, I shared with you how we can handle situations where we think someone else is trying to use guilt on us to get us to do something. I talked about how powerful an emotion guilt can be. So this week, I'm turning the tables and I'm going through all the dangers of us using guilt to manipulate our teens and how we can stop it. So if you haven't listened to episode 128, I suggest you do that after you listen to this one, because we all have experiences being on both sides of this unfortunate communication. And when we can recognize when we use or respond to guilt, we show up much more confidently in the world, and we create much deeper connection with ourselves and with those who we want to be closest to. So a recap of guilt from episode 128. We often use guilt as an emotion to get people to do something for us. Guilt is used in close relationships because other people want us to be happy. Or we give into the manipulation of others and do things from guilt because we want them to be happy. When we are the ones guilting others, it's a way of manipulating these people to do something that meets a need we have. Often we'll employ phrases like, well, I made the money that bought the food we eat. The least you can do is happily do the dishes or clean the kitchen. In this case, our desire is that the dishes get done. We don't want to do the dishes. We'd like our teens or anyone else to do them. Clean and simple. Maybe we have an unspoken expectation that when people see dirty dishes, they know what to do with them. And instead of being clear and vulnerably asking someone to do something, guilt is employed to get that person to do it. The unfortunate result that always follows a guilt trip is disconnection from both people, which generally is the opposite of any real desired result. Notice how in the situation with guilting a teen into doing the dishes, we avoid asking for what we really want. When we try to guilt trip teens, we create a cycle of indirect communication. We model to them that it's okay to beat around the bush for what we want. If we use guilt trips to get our kids to do things, they learn several immature emotional models. They learn there's something dangerous about having needs and asking for those needs to be fulfilled. They learn our emotions are things that other people have control over, or our emotions are the responsibility of other people. And all of this sets our kids up to manipulate others and be emotionally handicapped in their own relationships. They don't learn how to confidently and vulnerably resolve conflicts. And I'm guessing you, like me, really want to arm your kids with the best tools to calmly resolve conflicts. Guilt tripping isn't the best tool. Before I give you very clear steps on how to stop intentionally or inadvertently guilt tripping your kids, here are subtle ways that we use guilt with our kids. And as I go through this list, trust me when I say I am cleaning this up for myself, and these inadvertent ways really were an eye-opener for me. Guilt tripping may show up as bringing up mistakes they've made in the past. It may show up as reminding them of everything we do for them, favors we have done for them, suggesting they owe us. It may show up as us getting angry, then denying that there's a problem, or refusing to speak to them, or giving them the silent treatment. It may show up as other passive-aggressive behavior, or even a sarcastic comment about their efforts and progress. Oh dear, I am working so hard on sarcasm personally. Notice how in all of these subtle ways, we aren't expressing what we want and need, and we're avoiding our real desires and needs. We're not allowing the uncomfortable emotions in us or in them. Let me just pause here for a second, because one of those subtle key manipulators is pretty big. Y'all, our kids don't owe us anything. We brought them into the world, and we have to own and take responsibility for every single thing we have signed them up for. Every meal we've made, everything we do for them is because we choose to do it. We do it because this is who we want to be. We have to learn to appreciate ourselves. It's not their primary job to appreciate us. Once we love and appreciate ourselves and them, they see what it looks like, and they'll do both. Love and appreciate themselves and us. Consciously, if we could choose, do we want our teens doing things for us from the emotion of guilt or love? If we want it from love, which feels better to them and to us, then let's work to communicate with them with a love trip, not a guilt trip. This doesn't sound like, I made you dinner because I love you, so you'll do the dishes if you love me. No. Tone matters. Our thoughts are totally evident in our tone and energy. Love sounds like, I spent the last of my energy tonight on dinner. Abby, would you clear the table? And Matthew, would you load the dishwasher? I'd really appreciate it. I know you're super tired also, and you've had a long day. Let me put on your favorite music, and I bet it'll only take you 5 minutes. If we feel taken advantage of, this is a big sign to pause and set boundaries and express needs. If we want our children to take responsibility for their actions, we have to take responsibility for everything we do and don't do. It starts with us. We can't blame our kids that we choose to do their laundry. It isn't their fault that we're exhausted after a day of work and also driving their carpool and helping them with the science project. We choose to do all of these things, so we can't use our actions as leverage for them to do things for us. The scales will never be even. They don't need to be. There's nothing to measure. There is no owing in emotionally mature relationships. There's no keeping score. Loving relationships never involve keeping score or evenness. Nothing ever can be evened up in the parent-child relationship. Inherently, it's a relationship of love, service, sacrifice, caring, devotion, compassion. And once we learn to always use clear language and love as our emotional fuel, there are no more guilt trips, and our teens love and connect back. Now, let me pause and say, last week, I heard my brain say, I woke up so early to help this one child. They should now do this for me. I hated how that felt, and still I almost said something to them, which would have been me trying to guilt trip them. And notice how I'm blaming my child for me needing extra sleep and so on. It's okay to need that extra sleep. I just need to ask for it by owning what I need and not projecting that my children owe it to me to do something for me since I did something for them. Okay, I want to give you more examples as we go through several steps to stop guilt tripping. First, we have to get clear with what we want. We have to know what our needs are. It's okay to have needs. Many of us have spent years and maybe decades catering to the needs of others and think we shouldn't have needs. We do have needs though. We have things we want, and we should want and need things. It's actually very healthy for our teens to see that we want and need things. They respect us more, and they see us as humans when they see us need and want things. Instead of guilting our kids or family into buying us presents for our birthday, tell them what we'd like and give them a list. Text them a link to what we want and say simply, my birthday's coming up. Here are a few things I'd like. Instead of guilting our kids into saying thank you and gushing with appreciation and gratitude, we have to own that we want appreciation and we want to be loved. This is a very vulnerable place to be. Even wanting gifts is vulnerable. It's vulnerable to ask, and it's also mature to say, I'd like those, and if you aren't able to get them for my birthday, no problem. I just thought I'd let you know a few things that I do want. Knowing what our needs are is the first step to us figuring out how to get these things. I've heard clients say they want to stop the cycle of using guilt to get kids to come home for the holidays or to spend more time at home instead of with friends. It's vulnerable and important for us to acknowledge, I want my kids to spend time with me. I'm feeling sad and lonely, and I want to be happy and connected to people I love. As humans, we all have these needs. We are emotionally mature people when we can acknowledge and meet these needs or ask people to help us meet them. So know what you want done. The next step after we know what we want is to ask clearly and directly for others to help us. Ask without the guilt-inducing tone. Clearly state to your children, I need to get to sleep tonight earlier, and I'd like for us to have the kitchen clean and the laundry folded. Can you help me do this work for 20 minutes after dinner? Then be willing to follow through without guilt to get done what needs to get done and get to sleep regardless of how much gets done. It makes jobs fun. Well, I'm using a lot of examples about sleep and dishes. You can tell what we spend a lot of time on here. This doesn't involve my teens, but knowing my needs is really important. Several years ago, I had a birthday and was kind of in a transition with friends. I reached out to a newish and great friend and said, this day is my birthday. Can we go to lunch together? I knew my need. I vulnerably asked for someone to be my friend and connect with me. As kids leave for college or spend more time away from home as they drive, we have the need to know where they are, know that they're safe. This is our need, not their need. I've practiced this year saying to my son in college, I'd like to connect with you and know how your classes are going. When can we talk in the next 2 days? I open myself up for rejection, and also I take responsibility for my needs, and I clearly state how I'd like to fill that need. I'm not guilting my child into calling me. I'm respectful of his time, his friends, how his life and schedule is changing. I have been sad as my kids leave for college. This sadness isn't their responsibility to carry. It's my responsibility. Just like I want them to maturely know what creates their emotions. I am the example to them of not needing other people to bend into pretzels or do gymnastics to care for my emotions and needs. Practice with small things. Even practice when you're alone. Say out loud, I need a half-hour break from talking to people. I need this many hours sleep. I like to have my family eat breakfast together on weekends. Whatever it is, say your needs and practice asking other people to help you meet them if this is appropriate. The next layer of stopping the guilt is to make sure in each situation we are pausing and really seeing our teens, taking their needs and wants into consideration when we make requests of them. Just this week, I had to pivot from guilt to curiosity, and it made a huge difference with me and my son. We're going to visit my parents over April break, which is out of the state, and my son expressed that he didn't want to go for the whole week because he really wanted to make money and work some that week. I totally heard my brain, and I almost started to say, you need to spend time with your grandparents. They are getting older. We can't take this time for granted. And all of this. Now, while it's true, really that was sending him on a guilt trip if I was going to say that. And I don't want him on the trip with guilt as the emotion he brings with him. It won't be pleasant to any of us. And worse, it's not connecting or loving him. So I paused and I said, okay, well, let's talk about it. I do want you to see your grandparents, and I know that you want that also. I want you to work too. Let's talk about it. We then talked about when we're leaving and coming back. We talked about things that we will do there. Instead of focusing on my desire for him to go and go with a good attitude, I focused on connecting with him wanting more money, what he'd like to do that week, And in the discussion, we came up with a great compromise that meets his desires and my desires. And honestly, it's a better plan than we had originally had. All because I stopped and saw him and validated him. Y'all, our kids want to be seen and loved. They want connection. We want connection. Guilt trips do not connect us. Guilt is a very disconnecting emotion. It is handcuffed to resentment, and those emotions will erode relationships. Doing this work really builds solid, honest, vulnerable, and connecting relationships. It takes courage to love our own needs and feel responsible to meet them. Our teens will want to connect with us when they see we are owning how we feel and we aren't blaming them or saddling them with our human emotional roller coasters, much of which is our own making. It's incredible to break these patterns of communication, to call them out and be the example of mature communication. It only takes one person to break a pattern and stop a cycle. The argument or guilt trip ends when one person doesn't engage in that behavior. And above all else, with our teens, we don't ultimately want them to do what we say or comply. On the surface, it may look like that. We may think that's what we want. It isn't, though. Ultimately, we want connection. We want them to be well-adjusted, respectful, emotionally mature, and responsible humans. We want them to make good choices and learn from the less than good choices, which requires that they know how to own and feel negative emotions. They learn this in part by watching us sit with negative emotions and also vulnerably ask for the things we need. So let's all work together. No guilt tripping. Direct and honest communication is what we want. And then watch the love and connection grow. That's it for this week. If you would like personalized weekly private one-on-one coaching to learn how to confidently ask for what you need and surround yourself with confident people, sign up for a consult call at HeidiBenjaminson.com. A confident mother is the greatest gift to her family, not a perfect mother. Our families want us to feel confident, anchored, and calm. I can help you uncover this version of yourself. Have a great week.